All right, looks like we're live. Okay, so hello and welcome. If you are new here, this is my channel. I am Curly, and normally I do like pseudo video game reviews / analysis. And today we are talking about The Alters, which has been a game that I've been like sinking a ton of hours into and everything else. And we're specifically talking about how The Alters is a game all about being a leader. Oh shit. And being the best you possible. And now, what do I mean by that? Why? What nonsense am I spelling over here? Let me see if I can actually put this into a better position. Yeah. So, what do I mean by this? Being a leader and being the best you possible. So, in order to get into that, I gotta go into three separate sections. Or shit, didn't mean it. Three separate sections that I want to go into real quick. The first one is going to be the story. And yes, there will be spoilers. So if you plan on playing this game, please pause the video, go play it the rest of the way, get the rest of your story out of the way, and then come back here and we'll sit here and talk about it together. So I have to go over the story in order to get across what I'm actually getting, like get to what I'm actually getting across. Another thing I need to get into is the gameplay, because the gameplay is a huge factor in why this game makes you have to face some of the challenge, like the actual challenges being a leader like entails. Like you have to make hard choices, and those hard choices have consequences that fall onto you. Um, and then last but not least, third point that I wanted to get into: story, gameplay, and what it means to be a leader is the last section I'm going to get into right there at the very end. So, starting off with the story, I am going to give a rough summary of everything. You are a on a space mining operation that is going out into deep space. Your entire crew is put into cryosleep, and you're looking for a material that is called rubidium. And this material is only found in stars that have three suns. So in super rare galaxies. Sorry, my throat had a little tickle. And your ship is specifically has what's called a quantum computer on it, and this quantum computer looks for specifically looks for solar systems with three suns in them, because it knows that that's the highest chance of having rubidium there on one of their planets. So you're I believe you're a builder on it named Jan, who is crash landed on one of these planets where there are three suns. And in the crash landing, your entire crew except for you dies. And there's like a bit of a mystery around that starts to get revealed later. And I'll get into it later on because that's a lot more spoiler territories. If you're still here, you probably need to go if you don't want spoilers from here on out. Oh, sorry. So Jan ends up the only survivor, and then what you have this base that's a giant wheel that can move and everything, but it needs multiple people in order to operate it. Like one person can't do it alone. It's literally impossible. Plus also, your character is a builder. He doesn't have the expertise to grow food. He doesn't know how to make good food. He doesn't have the expertise to be a technician. He doesn't have the expertise to be a doctor. He doesn't know science. He's not able to research and actually build things on his own. Like he's not able to come up with new ideas. Well, he can come up with new ideas on his own, but not like super advanced ones like we're going to get into a little bit when we start to get into what more of like the sci-fi nature of this. So he's stuck there. He gets into contact with his mining corporation, and they let him know. Or well, first actually, he finds rubidium. He actually finds the material that they sent him there for in the first place. Then he gets in contact with the mining corporation and tells them that he has the rubidium. And then after he tells them they have the rupidium, they send him blueprints for something called or well, I think the womb's already actually on the or no, I think he actually had to build it. I can't remember if you actually had to build it or if it was already on the base altogether, like at the start. I think you actually had to build the womb, and then after you built the womb, you were able to take the rupidium and go down there and take the genetic material. That's what it was. It wasn't blueprints. They sent genetic material over. You're able to take the genetic material they sent over and then use the rupidium, and it clones a sheep. So you've now made life from practically nothing but a blood sample, and that's almost amazing. Um, so then you contact your mining corporation. You let them know what happened. You cloned a sheep. You named it Molly, which is a nice nod to the first sheep ever cloned. Um, and then after that, the mining corporation tells you you are not going to be able to survive alone. So you have to alter yourself. You have to make a clone of yourself. But it can't just be a straight clone of you, because then it will not be able to have the expertise in the fields. Sorry, I should have drank some water before this. Um, you're just a builder. You don't have expertise in any of the other fields that are needed to actually operate the base. Like I said, you don't have doctor expertise. You don't have technician expertise. You can't do all these other things that it's actually needed for you to do. Um, so what he asks you to do is to go to the quantum computer. When you go to the quantum computer erases what you see as memory logs of all the other crewmates that are on the ship, and then it shows you a streamlined version of your character Jan's life. And you get it all the way from the beginning, where like he's a young boy in a fucked up situation where he's got an abusive alcoholic dad and a mom that just takes it so she can keep the family together. And he goes off to party and goes off to college and parties and everything at college. And while he's away, his mother passes away from a terminal illness. And I believe his father is still alive in that timeline, and he just never speaks to him again. I can't remember right off the top of my head. It's been like 2 weeks since I actually played the start of the game. Um, but yeah, so he ends up leading. Oh yeah, he gets married, ends up getting divorced because there's a huge economy crash that's implied to have happened, and then because of that economy crash, he ends up on the mining operation because he can't find a job. He doesn't have a house. His wife left him. He's like literally a sorry piece of shit. So he's gotta go out into space to try to get away from it all. At least that's what he's trying to do and everything. So you see this entirety of his life, and you get this whole backstory, right? But then it gives you a branch off point where instead of going to college and partying and everything, you can actually see what happens if you stayed home and actually took care of your mother and like actually stood up to your father and like kicked him out and stopped the abuse and everything. And what that happens is you end up with another personality which actually grew up to be a technician, and he's got different memories, different life experiences, everything else. And they imply that it's the quantum computer that actually makes up the data and then places it into the brain of the alter. So you essentially have a version of yourself that has experienced different things and has different expertise that you are now talking to. And the personality shift is, while not night and day, it's different enough that it's almost another entirely different person. Like, you at your core are still Jan. You can still like kind of see where he's coming from, but like his emotions are way out of whack. Like, he doesn't see logic that well. He wants everything to be in a more natural state, even though he was born in a very unnatural way. Oh, so you think the computer is just doing all of this, and it's like creating this fake personality and everything, and it's a little fucked up, but like none of his memories are actually real, right? Well, then we get into the scientists that you end up making, the alter. So each of your alters has their own like personal storyline and everything that you can learn about their life and everything through them and like their experiences, and you have to do certain things for them to make them happy. And that's part of what I'm going to get into with the gameplay, because that's where a lot of the leadership roles come into play. But so you get into the scientist side of stuff, and the scientists actually there's a part in the game where you have to cross a lava bridge, and the scientist notes that one of his undergrad students had gone to work on a project at the mining corporation, like at the Ally Corp is what the corporation's called, and had gone on to develop a anchor system that can levitate. I believe what they said is it's able to actually suspend something in midair for a short distance of time. Um, but his student had gone on and developed this project, and it was mandatory on each one of these expeditions. Well, at least in his mind, that's what he thinks and everything. You turn around and you ask the corporation about this project, and turns out, yes, it is real. It is super top secret. No one's supposed to know about it. And then on top of it all, what is it? The project was never completed. Like, no one was actually able to like actually make it work. So you ask them to send over the data and everything like that, and like try to see if maybe your scientist can make it work. From some weird reason, he shouldn't be able to, because technically all of his memories were just made up by the computer using the information that the computer has from the database. But he's able to complete the project, and he's able to actually help you guys out. Because like another thing I forgot to explain is you have to keep the base moving. You're on a time limit. um you have like a set number of days. I believe the first act is like something around 15 to 20 days, and then every act after that gets shorter. I believe it rounds out to 88 days all, or yeah, 88 days altogether is the last day you can be there. Because I ended up spacing it, like I had to use all of my time, and even then I still didn't really have enough time to do all the things that I really needed to do. um so you're on this constant time limit, and you have to get the base moving, or else the sun will rise and it will literally melt you, the base, everything all together, because there's three suns, and like it's hot as actual fucking hell. um so your scientist is able to get these bridge anchors um up and running, and he saves you guys. You get moving again and everything else like that. But that's odd. He shouldn't have been able to do that. Technically, all the information in his head should not be real, but we just kind of prove that it is to an extent. But it could also be the quantum computer gave him the necessary data to connect the points before um actually like separating the consciousness into the body and everything. So there is that possibility as well, and that's why I think this is actually like some of the best sci-fi game, one of the best sci-fi games we've actually gotten story-wise in the last couple of years, because it actually makes you ask questions and makes you ask hard questions, and as we're going to get into later, it makes you make hard choices and everything like that. So we go on. You go on a little further and everything like that. You get over the lava bridge, and you end up to an anomaly where there's like a giant sandstorm. Well, actually, I believe they imply that gravity is literally pulling everything upwards and then pulling it back down, kind of like in a circle like this, nonstop. Um, so you come across that anomaly, and you have to find a way to get rid of it. Well, in that's not really the hard part of this section. Well, like it does take a lot of resources. You could probably get it done in like 4 days tops if you know what you're doing and you actually like put the time in and get all like the materials necessary. And hell, if you even played the first act really well, you might even already have the materials and not actually even have to mine. You can just make the things that you need to proceed in Act Two. But the real challenge comes when you find out that all of your altars have a brain tumor. Every single one. You don't have one, so that's how you know it's not like a disease from the planet or something. It's actually a brain tumor that comes from the altering process. You discover it because the sheep, Molly, actually ends up passing away, and you have to perform an autopsy on her. And through that, then you have to get an MRI scanner, scan all your altars, see what's wrong with them, and there's a couple solutions that you can go through. And this is where the game branches into multiple different choice paths. I believe altogether there are 6 actual different endings that you can go through. There might be more. I have not found them all. I only did one and then looked up the other endings on YouTube because I don't have the time to sit here and play the same game like 3 or 4 different times. I do want to go back and try to do a perfect run, like try to go all the way from the beginning all the way to the end and see if I can actually fill up this part right here, which we're going to get into the lessons learned and everything. But before we get into that, we're going to finish the story out. So it branches off here because you have a couple different choices to deal with the brain tumor. You can create what's called a tabula rasa, which is a version of you that has no memories at all. It's never been conscious. It's supposed to have no personality, nothing. Like, it's supposed to be a blank human organ slate, essentially. And you are supposed to wait a couple days for it to fully like manifest and everything, and then for its brain to fully develop, and then you have to cut its brain out and turn that into a potion that all of your altars drink. So it's kind of pseudo cannibalism. I mean, it plain out is honestly kind of cannibalism, even though it's cloned meat. But it saves all your altars. You can either do that, or you get from the corporation a brain chip that you can place into all of your altars' heads that will remove the tumor, but give the corporation full access to their emotions, thoughts, and a bunch of other things. And another thing that I failed to mention as well is that none of this is legal. And the entire point of the game is for Jan to get back to Earth. So when he gets back to Earth, if anyone finds out about his altars, there's immediately going to be a legal process around that. Like, he's going to get tried. They're going to see what like the ethical nature and everything around this is, because technically the project that you use in order to alter yourself, the quantum computer where you actually create different personalities and everything, is actually a experiment done by Allied Corp that was shut down initially because of the disturbing results that it had, and it was deemed that it was unethical and illegal to do. So putting the brain chips in immediately gives the corporation biosignatures of multiple people of the same DNA. So instantly you put that brain chip in, the corporation's going to know immediately what is wrong. Like, they're going to be like, "Oh, you have altars there. Like, you can't be doing that. That's illegal." But this is where it comes into a gray line. Humanity is on an actual resource crisis, and the Rapidium is the only thing, because we've seen that its molecular structure is like so finite that it can literally create anything. It can create animals, it can create people. So they need this Rapidium to create the things that they need for the resource, for Earth to not go into an actual all-on riot, war, fucking dark age. So they see that you have the Rapidium, so they are willing to turn a blind eye to a certain extent and everything like that. So you have to make those two choices, and depending on which choice you choose has dire consequences. One, the brain chip splits off into 2 separate endings, which can either get you a good or bad ending in each one. Each one also has consequences for Jan himself, somewhat consequences. The one ending, I would say, it's supposed to be an evil ending. I would say he turns out on top, even though like most of his life is dictated from that point. If you go with the brain chip route, you don't suffer any consequences. Well, I mean, you suffer a little bit of consequences. You have to do certain things to disable the brain chip and like actually get it in a way that you can make sure that your altars survive and make it back to Earth with you. Because that's another point. Like, that, at a certain point, you start to realize that's also the goal. Like, it's trying to get off of that planet without just you. Or if you go with the Tabula Rasa route, which was the route I went with, you lose half your crew. That's it. it's permanent. Like they're gone. They full on rebellion. They fix a Tur vehicle. They go out into the desert. They start building their own base. They want nothing to do with you anymore. You are permanently crippled by that decision. Like, and that's insane. Like you made the wrong choice. You must suffer now. In both of these, you move on to Act 3, where you end up in a sandstorm. You end up actually going through the alter process yourself. You go to the quantum computer and you have it restructure your brain in the way to be a leader. And this is where the actual thesis of our video comes into play, because here's the twist of the whole thing. It doesn't actually change Jan at all. You think going in that it's going to fully change his personality like the other alters, like he's going to become one of them, like he's just going to change. But that doesn't happen. What happens instead is he actually goes into his subconscious and talks to his what do they call it? I guess it is his subconscious specifically is what he's talking to. He's in his subconscious talking to his subconscious at the same time, and his subconscious reveals something that he's kind of known all along. And like I mean, I guess I kind of knew, but like I didn't really like put the pieces together because it makes sense. Jan survived because the quantum computer made sure that he had the last amount of oxygen and made sure that he was the one to survive because he had the best possibility of surviving the outcomes and actually getting the Rapidium back to Earth. It chose him over the actual leader of the group because of how many different possibilities and how many different people this one person could be. And I also believe that what it was trying to get into here was that not only did Jan have all these possibilities, right? And he made the altars and everything, but to get the best ending and everything else like that, you have to get what are these called? Actually, I'm going to hold off on that. I'm going to get into that a little bit later into gameplay. I'll finish up the story segment first. Sorry, this has been a lot long-winded. So, after Jan wakes up and everything's perfectly fine and he's normal again, he does realize what to do, though. He ends up getting his way through the sandstorm. Like I said, in Act 3, it could play out differently if you chose the brain chips. So I'm now going from my experience of killing the tabula rasa and feeding it to everybody else. So, you're in this sandstorm and you actually use the lights from the Tur vehicle of the alters that escaped or that rebelled from you and use that in the navigation system to pinpoint your way out of the sandstorm. And then you're finally in the pickup spot and all you need to do is shoot a beacon up and let the because there's a space crew in orbit that's ready to pick you up, let them know that you're ready to be picked up. You go to shoot off the beacon. Turns out there's a giant force field around the entire planet, and that was what was part of draining the oxygen and actually killing your crew. You have this big climactic final act where you have to like have a shit ton of resources prepared, because you're kind of like timed going all the way up to the top of this big climax where you have to take down the barrier and everything. It's super fucking cool, and like I could get into explaining it all, but I'm not going to explain everything. There's like a bunch of anomalies and everything that like are kind of the enemies in this game, and you deal with them by dealing with the barrier. And it ends in like this. It's not really even a battle per se, but it's kind of a battle. It's like a race where you have obstacles that are willing and going to kill you, and if you aren't prepared, you are just stuck, and that's it. You're done. You got to go back, kid. You got to reload your save. You soft lock yourself. Um, but after that happens, you beam up, and there's a couple more choices that you're given to deal with the crew and actually get your altar safely on board. So you have these things that are called Rapidium arcs because Rapidium is super fragile. It's not actually able to make the trip back to Earth, so you have to make a specialized container for it in order for the Rapidium to actually make it back in a usable state. Um, so you make a fake Rapidium arc and put your altars in it. You can choose to do that, or you can just choose to actually show them to the corporation, which is just a bad idea. Um, because they will kill them on sight and everything else. Like, or actually, I don't think you can. I think no matter what, you have to do the Rapidium arc. Um, but there's a couple ways you can deal with the crew in order to get back. You can hack the terminal and tell it to go to where you want it to go so your altars are safe. Or at this point, you're dealing with someone from the corporation named Maxwell who has used these experiments in the past and everything like that, as like a means to an end almost. And he's the reason they got banned in the first place. So at this point, you're either trying to get your altars away from them or take your altars to them, and essentially you're his puppet if you take them to him. I chose to set them free, and in doing that, you have a choice between either blowing up your base with like all the crew members that came to pick you up inside, and then taking your altars and you back to Earth alone, or you can put them all to sleep and then carry them back onto the ship and have them actually not be murdered and taken back to Earth with you in your and your altars and everything. So if you do that, you end up in an ending where I killed everyone and I ended up getting my altars away from Maxwell. You end up in an ending where you're in a legal battle with Maxwell, where the corporation's actually on your side because you brought the Rapidium back, and they're actually helping you fight him and make him look like a crazy madman that forced you to do everything. Meanwhile, your altars are living somewhere, living their best life because they send you a coded message telling you about everything. There's either that, and I looked up, like I said, what happens if you do side with Maxwell. You end up becoming his lab experiment guinea pig, along with your altars and everything else. It's not a great ending. It's probably the worst ending you could choose in the actual whole game. Mine's not much better. Mine, I would say, is probably the perfect neutral ending out of all of them. And that's fitting for me. Normally, I try to go for neutral endings instead of good or bad endings. So that's the story. And I thought it was a great story and everything like that. It had me fully engaged. And like I said, there's a point in Act 2 where you could get not an entirely different story, but you can get an entirely different Act 3 than I had. So, excuse me. Getting into the gameplay of things, where I think this game is actually trying to say something about being a leader and being the best you possible. I believe it's trying to say something with the lesson learned wheel here. So every single altar you create, you can either use them like tools and use them as a means to an end, or you can treat them like people. And you can actually get to know them, and you can learn about like their wants, their needs, their fears, they are people that are you, but also altered in a way that are so different that like you actually, so like when dealing with the technician, for example, you have to appeal to emotion and you have to avoid flattery because he doesn't like flattery. So you appeal to his emotional side. You go, hey bro, like listen, if you want to punch, I get you're mad, but if you want to punch me, just punch me. Like I know that would cheer you up. And instead of punching you, he's just like, you know what? That's funny. Like you cheered me up just by doing that. Thanks, man. Like the offer alone was all he needed. He just needed to know that you cared enough to let him do that. While on the other hand, you have the scientist, which appeals to logic and is very motivated by flattery and everything like that. Where a lot of times I thought it like being comforting him would like help him. It normally just pissed him off. So like him, I had to be straight with. I just laid it out as clear as possible, and he liked that. He liked that. And then also, like I said, if I was in a situation where he was like, I don't know if I can do this or not, I just appeal to flattery. Oh man, you're the smartest in the world. You really don't think you can do that? And he's like, no, you know what? You're right. I am the smartest. And just fucking jumps on that. So like these are These are you, but they are also different people. And learning how to interact with them and make them happy is all part of being a leader. Because being a leader, you're going to need to be able to communicate with different walks of life and be able to understand from their perspective and actually be able to appease them from their perspective and actually be able to understand them on a personal level, because nobody's going to follow a leader that does not understand them on a personal level and does not actually care about them. Nobody wants to be a tool. Nobody wants to be a means to an end. And then the other half of this, and being the best you possible, like I said, comes into the actual wheel here. So, like I said, with the wheel here, every single altar has their own story, and as you progress through it, they normally teach you a lesson. Like the technician teaches you assertiveness, and I didn't really get into too many others of them because I was a shit leader, if I'm being 100% honest. Uh, but each of them teaches you something about being a leader, and each of them makes you a more whole person and more whole, just better leader all around, better able to understand and better able to act in certain situations. And he was only able to learn that by altering himself and understanding himself from a different perspective. So, yes, all of these alters are him, but their personalities are like treating and talking to different people. And the game rewards you for being able to navigate these minefields that are these alters personalities and being able to do it in a way that they feel cared about, and they also feel like you are a proper leader and you are the one who is actually going to get them home. And that's where being the best you possible is, because all of these pieces of himself are adding on to the center. As you see, they all clip onto the center to make a giant, better whole. One that Jan literally could not have done without understanding the other parts of himself. And it even gets a little bit deeper because it's not as easy as I'm letting it sound. Like, yeah, you go, you talk to them, you give them what they want, but let's say you say something wrong. Now you've pissed them off. Got to go back. That you piss them off. Like I'm not saying you can't not piss them off. Like you're never going to be able to make everyone happy, and that is a true fact about being a leader. It's said to you very early on, don't try to do everything, because trying to do everything is just going to piss everybody off. Try to just mitigate and actually make the people happy that are the most upset, and actually bring the morale up from the bottom, and also try to prop up the people at the top. Essentially, you need to manage your priorities. What is more important? Actually building the beacon that you need to actually get the fuck off the planet, or going and talking to the technician and calming him down, because if you don't calm him down, he's literally going to rebel and kill you in your sleep. So you have to balance these things. You have to think about what is the best possible thing to get you and everyone in the best possible position. And sometimes the easiest choice, or the choice that seems the most correct, or like the one that is going to make everyone safer, actually backfires on you. Like I said with the tabula rasa, I thought, for example, if I went through with it, I was going to make sure that the corporation were never going to find my altars, and that I would be able to keep them safe. Like, I thought they were going to literally take control of their brains and like turn them just turn the off switch on as soon as like my mission was over. Oh, so I thought I was doing the right thing, but I lost half my crew because of it. And like, that was a huge detriment. The last act was so fucking hard for me because I did not have my altars. Like, because I was a bad leader and made the wrong choice, I had to suffer. And there was no possible way for me to actually get all the pieces of the puzzle that way either. So it's not as easy as just, oh, this seems logically sound. No, you have to think about other people. You have to think about their perspective of it. You have to think about how they're going to respond, how they're going to react, what they might do to you as a response or reaction to that action that you initially made. Because as a leader, all choices and responsibility falls on you. And you have no one else to blame in that aspect. Only you can prevent rebellion fires, right? So it reflects the fact that you need to be a leader, and in order to be a leader, you need to be able to communicate with people in a way that is both healthy and also, how do I say, also kind of assertive as well, in a way that like makes them feel comfortable but also respect you at the same time. And at the same time, also the gameplay through giving you a time limit, and as well making it so you have all these different things it seems like you have to do, but you can't do within the time limit that they give you, and you have to mitigate and prioritize. That is also all about what being a leader is. Like, you're never going to be able to get it all done. You're never going to always make everyone happy. You are always going to try to get everyone on the other side where they are in a better position than when they started, but that's not always going to be the case. And if that isn't the case, you as a leader have to deal with those consequences. And part of being a leader is dealing with those consequences and using them in a way that can benefit the team as a whole as well. So I kind of already have been getting into the third part here as I've been talking about gameplay and everything else like that. What it means to be a leader is, honestly, like I said, trying to get you and your team through a project on the other side. Well, okay, let's say you have a project, and we're gonna get into a little bit of drawy time here. You got to move some boxes, right? You got a team of people. You got me here, right? Leader. You got Susie here. Bad back. And you got Jorge here. Trying to think of a problem for Jorge. Missing a hand. Jorge doesn't have a hand. So, yeah, let's get rid of Jorge's hand. So now, you have to get all these boxes separated into two piles, right? But you can't do it all yourself because you've only got 20 minutes. And you know it takes you 30 minutes to do it. Well, you can't exactly have Susie take on you can't split the workload into threes, because Susie's got a bad back and she's not going to be able to perform as well as you are, and Jorge's missing a hand, so he obviously can't work near as well as you can either. So what you have to do is now find a way to make this work. And if you can't make this work and you fail, then you have failed as a leader and you have to deal with the consequences. And the game, through its gameplay, reflects this perfectly. So what I did was I took on the brunt of it, and I started just putting the boxes everywhere myself and separating them myself. And just started carrying them, and like I occasionally was like, hey Susie, can you like look over these boxes and make sure that I'm actually separating them correctly? And I was like, hey Jorge, can you make sure that, like, they're actually stacked correctly? That's what I did in my version of the altars, and all it did was put a band-aid on things. And like, I was I made the time limit, but I barely made the time limit because I hindered myself so hard. Um, what I should have done and what would have been the better solution would be for Susie or for Jorge to be over here separating them out, and then for me to be carrying them most of the way. Or actually, yeah, Jorge would be here separating them out into two stacks. Susie's right here to stack them up over here. I'm right here. I move the box, hand it to Susie. She puts it down so that way she doesn't have to do any of the lifting. And Jorge also doesn't have to carry anything. And then we get one half done, and then we get the other half done. And we only got it done in 15 minutes instead of 20. And now we have a 5-minute break. So that's the difference between being a good leader and a bad leader. Being a good leader takes delegation, takes prioritization, takes using your team in a way that is also beneficial to you, but also beneficial to them. It's a symbiotic, not parasitic relationship. Being a bad leader is seeing your people as tools and using them as such. In my situation, I saw 2 broken tools and I did most of the work myself because I saw that my tools were broken instead of actually still trying to use them. I know it sounds bad, like talking about people as tools in the concept of a leadership position, but that is normally what people are to people in a leadership position. And being a good leader is being able to use those people as tools, but also still seeing them as people and being able to communicate with them and actually manage them and make sure that they're happy at the end of the day and they get their work done and they are also as satisfied as you are at the end of the day. If your crew is mad at the end of the day and you're the only one happy, you didn't do a good job. And that's as plain and simple as it is. So, like I said, the game punishes you, so it makes you actually take responsibility for your actions. It gives you hard choices to make and gives you a lot of things that you have to delegate over a large area and a large span of places. And it gives you a time limit, so that way you're also under the pressure of needing to do all these things. This is literally the perfect environment to create a leader. And the game overall, like I said, I believe what it's trying to say at its core is that a good leader takes from their team as well. Like, not like necessarily like takes their wallet per se, but like takes, like, you took assertiveness from the technician. You learn to be assertive. You learn that not everyone is going to be right and you need to know when to stand your ground. And I'm sure, like I said, I didn't get into a lot of the other lessons learned. I wanted to, but I made the shitty decision and I was barred out from, that was my consequence. I was barred out from learning the rest of the lessons and being a better leader overall because I made the wrong decision. Um, but I'm sure there are other lessons that are like that, where like you all take all of these things from your team and you add them to yourself to make you an overall better person. And the quantum computer saw that not only did Jan have all these possibilities, because like I said, it deleted the memory banks of all the other crew members. All the other crew members had all these other possibilities. It saw that Jan was the only person, even the actual leader of the crew didn't have this quality, was the only person that would actually listen and actually treat his alters like people and actually learn from them and be a better leader overall. It did also know that he was going to be the best likely candidate to survive because of how buried his alters were, but it also knew that he was going to prioritize his alters also along with the mission. It knew that he was the proper leader. But I think overall I've gotten my point across. I don't think I have too much more to add to the conversation, I guess I should say. This is a great game, actually. I would have to say I give it a 4 out of 5. The one little bit off of it being a 5 out of 5 is the There's so many bugs. There's so many bugs in this game. Oh my god. I had to restart so many times because I got stuck in like a wall or a cliff or something, or like had to like reuse my batteries, like because you only have a certain amount of like electricity while you're out exploring the actual world, and like there's cliffs that you have to get up and down, and if you go up them, you use all your battery life. Um, and when you come back down, like I would go up and use all my battery life, and then I'd be stuck at the top of the cliff and couldn't move. And the only thing I could do was go back down. And then now I have no battery life and I can't go back up the cliff. And so I had to go all the way back to my base, recharge real quick, come back, and then I was able to go up the cliff because it didn't glitch out on me this time. And I was able to actually move when I got to the top of the cliff. So that's like my biggest problem with the game is that it's just like really buggy, but like they can patch that out. So like honestly, if you like anything that I've said and like you got this far and you still haven't played the game, go give it a shot because even everything I explained is only 1/3 of the game. You can have an entirely different experience with the other two parts of the third act. And even in those acts, there are different choices that you can make. Like I said, I blew the base up. You can see what happens when you put him to sleep. Um, and everything else like that. And that's another thing that I think this game does really good in its gameplay is that for a choice game, it branches really well and still, um, what is it? It branches out and comes back in at a really good point that also it doesn't even really branch in at that point. Like you always end up back in your apartment, back on Earth at the end of the day, but the things that happen to you and how your life turns out because of the choices you made in that apartment are so radically different that they might as well be different places that you end up. And that is where I would say like it does gets a 10 out of 10 in my book. For a choice game to give you that many different branching options and still culminate on a single point and actually still feel like it's different endings instead of being the same ending just repeated over copy and pasted over and over again just with a little bit of different dialogue. It kind of still is that, but it's not. The dialogue is so different to the point that you might as well be in a different position. Hell, in one of them you are a different person actually. So like yeah, um that's spoilers for like the super secret ending. If you want to go find that, go ahead and venture yourself into that rabbit hole. Um, but yeah, so this game does 10 out of 10 on choices. The gameplay, like I said, it's really buggy and everything else like that. In the actual like playing the game, but like the gameplay and like the decisions that it wants you to make and the time limit and the pressure that you put like is put on you. Chef's kiss. I would say this game stressed me out. I felt like I was back at work. I'm a manager at Pizza Hut, so I do shit like this on a daily basis, like trying to mitigate people and manage people and everything else like that. I felt like I was at work. I was like, man, oh man, I'm stressed. Oh god, I'm stressed. But yeah, I would say it's a good game. Go give it a play. Um, it's not like the perfect game. I won't say like it's a Claire Obscure or anything, but it is definitely another good game that we got this year. If you like this video, give it a like. If you want to subscribe, go ahead and do that. Um, both of those are great for me, but the actual thing that I always like if people do is I make indie video games. If you want to support the channel, go down in the description below. I'll have a link to my game Skills and Slimes that's out right now, and then I'll also have a link to Drugs and Gambling, which is a game that I just came out with. You can play it free in browser, or you can, if you actually want to save your save file and everything, you can actually buy the game for $1. That's up on itch.io. I plan on trying to get that up on Steam here soon. But anyways, I think that's it for